welcome to the very first podcast episode of the Vibe Weekly. I am Dustin Parker, and I am here with my lovely wife, Rachel.
Hi.
And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I wrote about this year in the Vibe to kind of kick the new year off right. And then we're going to try this little experiment and release a podcast every couple weeks. See how it goes, see what you guys think. Please give us feedback, and hopefully we can bring you some cool content and keep things vibing.
Yeah, it's been a really fun year. I was thinking, looking through stuff that, for those of you that don't know, I get to be the first reader of the Vibe every week and do like a little check for typos and stuff before we send it out, and kind of going back through and looking at all the topics. It was kind of like a trip down memory lane of all the things that we've been talking about over the course of the year. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I kind of started the Vibe almost just kind of scratched my own itch. No real intention other than to share some of the things I had learned each week, or some things that I were interested in, or that I was interested in. And it's just kind of evolved, and it's been fun and been getting good feedback. So we'll see what this looks like in podcast form.
This is the pilot, so
Yes.
Be nice.
So we're going to start off, I think, talking about some of the things in tech that I mentioned this year throughout the Vibe. It has been a wild year in tech. So much has happened. AI has completely revolutionized everything that we know. And it was just a little more than a year ago that OpenAI released ChatGPT. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I feel like it's every day being talked about in our office and used and in the news. So it's wild that it's only been a year.
Yeah, so since then, most people are probably familiar with ChatGPT at this point. There's been a ton of innovations in AI. What's been really cool is kind of seeing some of the competition among those large language models in AI between ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude, and then Google's Bard as well, and then Gemini coming out hopefully over the next couple of weeks as well with their bigger platform. How have you been using AI mostly between those three LLMs in your day?
Personally, I love using ChatGPT as kind of like ideation, kind of brainstorming and thinking about what kind of content would be interesting on a marketing sense. Like, this is our target audience that we usually appeal to, or the average home buyer for us tends to be in this demographic. What do they care about? What are they looking up? What matters to them? And then taking that and asking it to act as a world-class content marketer and creating a plan for how to distribute that content in a way that is going to fit best. But you're the one that turned me on to this, but something that I've really noticed is that Claude is great for writing copy. I really like the tone and just the natural conversational feel of the copy that Claude comes out with. So that's really where I've been leaning for more of the actual writing side of things. What about you? I know you use it for a wide variety of things.
Yeah, I still think the GPT-4 is probably the best overall model for doing a wide array of tasks. It's good at writing, problem solving, brainstorming, math, all kinds of different things. But like you said, I think Claude is really good for writing, and it has its own purposes as well. And I think what's interesting is between those two, you have to kind of prompt them differently to get the results that you're seeking. And so if you spend a lot of time in ChatGPT and really dive deep on layering the prompts and asking the right questions and trying to frame things the right way to get the responses you're looking for, if you use that same methodology in Claude, you tend to get a little different response. And so I think you have to learn the nuance between those two. And then as Bard improves with the integration of Gemini, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out too. I think what I'm excited about with Gemini is that obviously we're in the Google suite in our workplace, and to have that integrated through Sheets and Docs and our calendar and everything else that we're doing is going to be really cool. I think it's just going to make things a lot quicker and easier, and allow us to have a little bit more seamless integration in those areas.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and with ChatGPT too, I think one of the things that's most exciting is all of the plugins and all the multifunctional features that it has, reading a PDF and using that for data analysis. For me, using Canva and kind of directly pushing content over into templates in Canva, that's been a huge time saver. But like you said, these things are just evolving in real time and getting better every day. So it's been really exciting. And speaking of Canva, I mean, they as a company are just so impressive to me. They're constantly upgrading and adding new features. And their Magic Studio was something that I actually wrote down as one of my favorite finds of the year, and just the ways that they are taking text to image or allowing you to swap out something inside of an image, extend the background. I mean, there are just so many ways that you can use AI natively in Canva, in a tool that is so user-friendly, whether you're a graphic designer or a total novice.
I think that's one of the coolest things about AI in general. There was a period in time where in order to do graphic design and to be really good at that work, you needed a 4 or 5 or 6 year degree.
Right.
You needed to have an art background probably, and just have so much talent specifically in that area, where AI now enables everyday humans that have no background
Like us.
in art and no skill in art to be able to do some cool things with it. And I think Canva is a really great example of that. It really kind of, at first I felt like it kind of dumbed down marketing and design, but I think what it's done probably over the last 2 to 3 years is really, it's kind of leveled up quite a bit. And obviously there's still great things you can do in Photoshop and some of the Adobe products, but I think what Canva offers is that intuitive, great user experience that's just simple for those that maybe aren't so deep into the little bit more complex world of Adobe.
Yeah, and the way I think of it too, like with Canva, I think someone asked recently at a talk we were at, do you have a fear that ChatGPT is going to force people to be lazy thinkers or to, kind of cheat, like using a calculator instead of knowing math? And the answer that the speaker gave I thought was great, which is no, it allows you to kind of jump over those mundane tasks and get straight to the higher level thinking. And I think that's the same with Canva. You don't have to spend 20 minutes adjusting the background color in order to get it exactly where you want it. You can jump right over that and spend your creativity and your mental power on high level marketing strategy and just really leveraging your time to focus on the things that you uniquely are great at. And so Canva, I think, is another great tool just like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And similar with Wix for websites. In the old days, I remember when we first got into real estate, it would cost thousands and thousands of dollars to get a website built to be able to do the things that you wanted it to do. And now with Wix and some AI and different integrations that they have, you can have that multi-$1,000 site created in a day by yourself without really much of a tech background at all. And if you do need to get a little bit techie and add in some unique features or buttons or tools or different things, you can now use ChatGPT and other products to actually do that back-end code for you without having been trained in coding and being a software engineer. And so I think it's just allowing people without the technical training and skills to be able to do some of the same things that these folks have been able to do in the past and in real time, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Wix, for someone that's a control freak like me over the fonts and the colors on the website, it's nice not to have to go to a software engineer or, a website developer when you want to change a small thing. And so it does put it kind of in your hands, which is great.
So as you know, I've been playing around a lot with AI art. I like that as kind of a little hobby to create silly photos and sometimes more artistic things in there. I constantly have a different background on my computer from something I created. But it's really cool to see this kind of competition and other companies kind of take off in this realm as well. Obviously, MidJourney seems to be kind of the leader in terms of the AI art creation. It's my favorite. They just released version 6, which is so much better than the previous versions, and they've gotten incredibly better just over the last 2 years, where some of the things that you can create in terms of photo art is indistinguishable from a real photo, which is absolutely incredible. ChatGPT now has DALL-E kind of built into the main platform, so it's really easy to utilize that to create art and images as well. What has been your experience using those models, if any, and what do you like and don't like about them?
I was going to say, I probably haven't dove as deep into that as you have. Honestly, most of what I'm doing for image creation is more in Canva. But I was kind of curious to ask you, because obviously DALL-E is embedded in ChatGPT, but it seems like you prefer MidJourney. But are you still using ChatGPT to craft your prompts for MidJourney? And if so, what kind of best practices or tricks have you learned through that process?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like the debate between Claude and ChatGPT in terms of what one's better for. If you want something to look super realistic and be photo quality, I don't think you can really beat MidJourney at this point. I think it's the best at that. The way that you have to prompt either platform is very different to get the results that you want. There's definitely formulas that you can kind of template in MidJourney to make things look exactly the way that you want them to look. But what I've been doing lately with MidJourney is kind of creating a ChatGPT bot, essentially, with those templates and prompts in them, so that each time I want to create an image or an artistic scene, it already knows how to frame that in a way that MidJourney best understands and gives me the output that I want. But even for someone who doesn't have any experience delving into that world right now, you could literally just, type something like a Miami Dolphins helmet, and
Top of mind.
it'll do a pretty good job. But if you really want to refine that and dig a little bit deeper and get exactly what you're looking for, it's a bit of an art, and it's fun. And that's why also there's so much discussion right now around copyright infringement and things too. What are your thoughts on that? I think New York Times just filed the first big lawsuit against OpenAI with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, and it is amazing because these images are just getting better and better. What popped to my mind as you were speaking was the image of the Pope in the big white puffer jacket that was all over. But I mean, it was so realistic that people 100% believed it. I think with copyright, it's difficult because I can see both sides of it. If you are an artist and you make your living off of your photography or your paintings, it does feel like a real threat, I'm sure, to your livelihood, and that is your intellectual property. So I understand that. At the same time, it, I think, is impossible to argue that we aren't all naturally, as humans, influenced by one another. And, this painter might be influenced by a painter that came 100 years before them, or photographer, and all of that. So I think hopefully government regulation will catch up in a way where these things are clearly like watermarked and it's very transparent what is generated by AI and what is not. But I think overall, I'm just excited about the possibilities there. I mean, even the text to image and text to video creation of a program like Pika, which we just started playing around with, is light years better than Runway ML a few months ago when I was trying to do the same thing there. And so just the possibility as a marketer and as a content creator to be able to type in a prompt and put out a video on the other end or generate B-roll for our marketing content. I mean, there are so many ways that we can incorporate this, and I think it's really good for humanity overall, as long as there's transparency around what's what. What about you? What do you think?
I think transparency is key, like you said, and just making sure that the audience understands, where things were created and where the information came from. But I think, kind of like you alluded to, it may be the unpopular opinion, but I think it's difficult to argue that humanity for all of history hasn't simply just built on what others have done before us. Every musician has learned from their favorite musician before them and have incorporated elements of what they did prior. Artists, the same thing. And certainly, a college professor that puts out a publication or a book or something has just gathered all this knowledge from other sources over time, and they're just kind of regurgitating it in their own way. And so I think the copyright issue is challenging. It'll be interesting to see how this court case plays out over the next several months. But I think it's a really delicate balance between, infringing on someone else's artistic abilities and work and just kind of doing the same thing that humanity has always done. Yeah,
and potentially slowing progress down in the way. And so it's a delicate balance. If you get too restrictive, then you're going to slow down humanity's progress, and that's not something anybody wants. So I completely agree. Well, speaking though of AI generated art, I couldn't go through this podcast reviewing 2023 without reviewing our favorites of your MidJourney creations, because there were quite a few interesting ones. I think one was a gorilla in a suit at one point. But I think my favorite that just popped into my mind was the one where you did Jerry Seinfeld's elementary school picture. It was so realistic, and he was such an adorable little kid in that picture. Yeah, what about you? Do you have any favorites, ones that stand out?
I love the Seinfeld one too. That was really fun to make. It's so cool because it's almost like you fall asleep and you dream things that happen that it's kind of tough to visualize or describe what that visualization might be when you wake up the next morning to someone else. But with AI now, you can describe it to the AI and it'll actually create that image for you, whether you're an artist or not, which is just incredible. The Seinfeld one was really cool. I created one that was like a lion growing out of a tree that I really liked, that I think is my desktop background right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just so much fun to kind of play around with that and see what you can create. I like creating different landscape scenes. I think it's cool just to figure out if you can kind of trick people in terms of what's real and what's not in images.
Back to copyright issues.
So I did a couple like portraits of Gandhi and MLK and some other figures too that I think are really tough to distinguish from the real thing. So it's really fun to play with, and you can get lost. It's almost like the TikTok scroll where you can find yourself going deep into the image creation for hours at a time if you let yourself.
I've witnessed you doing some of that. Well,
Yeah.
two more that we have to highlight now that you're saying real people is Snoop Dogg doing jazz. That was a great one. And speaking of real people, our little assistant, Avery, her sticker business. And that was kind of another fun application of using AI in an artistic sense to create something, a business from nothing, basically. And that's been a cool experience for her.
Yeah, it's been fun. And, there's always that debate ever since, we were kids and probably before then that, kids are not outside playing enough. They're not doing kid things, and they're too glued to their phones or video games or whatever it might be. And I think there is a balance to that. We want our kids to be out there in the world and playing in the woods and riding bikes and doing all those kinds of things, which they do. But also, like, the world is moving in a digital direction. And I think it's really important that they understand this technology and are able to utilize it in their daily lives. And so Avery's been having some fun with ChatGPT and MidJourney and creating things too. But it's cool to kind of see her turn that into a little business and little sticker designs that turn out really cool. And they're things that other people are interested in too. And so I think there's ways to incorporate technology into our kids' lives that is helpful and not detrimental. And I think as long as that there's clear monitoring of what's going on and how they're utilizing it, I think it's just setting them up for success in the future.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I mean, how many 8-year-olds can launch a sticker business? And think about trying to do that 20 years ago, without technology. It would have been quite an undertaking. But speaking about incorporating technology into daily life, as I was reviewing a lot of the essays, the first portion of the Vibe, one of the things that reflecting back, I've been most excited about was talking about how AI is going to be incorporated in daily life in the future, and thinking about how your car will just go pick up groceries for you. Your home robot, which sounds like science fiction, but it really isn't, will clean your floors, do your laundry, do your dishes, put everything away. And the idea of doing mundane household chores eventually will be eliminated. And when I say eventually, it's probably within 5 to 10 years for a lot of people. And I think that's really exciting. And when I think about, again, like when you can leverage technology to free up the time that you're spending on mundane tasks that don't really require a lot of brain power, and you think about what sort of quality pursuits you can reallocate that time to, I think both of us get really excited about that.
Yeah, it's funny. We have conversations almost every day with people and talk about some of these things, and they just kind of roll their eyes, like it's the Jetsons and it's 100 years or 200 years in the future. And I think it's really exciting to see the progress of some of this technology now. And just like simple things like a computer used to be the size of a room and cost $5 million, and governments were the only people that had them at the time. And we've seen, in not that long of a time period, how the technology has gotten better and smaller and cheaper and more affordable. And we're going to continue to see that, I think, with AI and robotics and different ways we're integrating technology in our lives too. And I think what's really cool now is like, I heard someone talking about this, that you can now, on average, I think, access the internet and obtain a smartphone for about $20. Which is actually cheaper than getting water and electricity in many parts of the world. And so the more we develop this technology, the more it's democratized, I think the better life is going to be for especially those that are in the bottom 1%, 2%, and 3%. It's going to allow them to have opportunities and to see the world and to learn and do things that they couldn't do before. It
is. It's fascinating. For anyone that's listening to this that hasn't really delved into this topic, I think the best thought leader is probably Peter Diamandis to talk about how these technologies will impact the future of humanity. And it's really interesting to think about. A lot of times I think we approach technology or gaps in equity from a very pessimistic view, and that's not to ignore that there are real problems in the world that need to be solved. But something I found really striking in what he said is the quality of life for even the bottom 10% of those living in poverty right now is better than what the monarchy was living with in the 1400s. And so again, that's not to say that we can't do better and we can't serve those in need better, but it is really kind of heartening to think about the progress that we've made as humanity, and how we've made in medicine and being able to feed people. I mean, what back in the 1400s, I don't remember what the stat was, but it's something like 80% of the population engaged in farming in some method just to be able to feed the world. And now it's less than 3%, I think, that feeds the entire world. And so just the ways that we are leveraging technology to create a better quality of life for one another and where that's going to go in the future, it's really exciting to think about. I mean, even at home robots, think about that in a medical sense, which is a whole other realm of AI that's really fascinating. AI is great at processing huge amounts of information very quickly and very efficiently without gaps in communication and all the human errors that we make and, biases and emotion and all of that. So think about how quickly we're going to be able to progress in disease diagnosis, in pooling all of the medical research around new treatments and new drugs to treat certain diseases, and just in exponentially quicker time periods, iterating and getting better and better. And I think you were saying the other day that the average lifespan for our kids is most likely going to be well over 100 years old. And a lot of it is due to AI and these sorts of advances that we're making.
Yeah, it was actually one of the early Vibe topics, I think, was like thinking about the good old days. And, I think humans are programmed almost to think about the past in a positive light. We always think that yesterday was maybe better than things are today, when in fact it's been proven time and time again that's just simply not true as a society. There wasn't that long ago where our lifespans were 40 and 50 years old,
right.
Where we didn't have indoor plumbing. The infant mortality rate was just through the roof. And so there's been so many advancements in such a short period of time that have really changed the world for the better. And I think we're going to continue to see that over time too. And I think as long as we continue to utilize technology responsibly and ethically, and there's some guardrails in place to do that, then I think our lives are going to continue to get better overall as a society. And one of the thought leaders that I really enjoy reading and listening to is Mark Andreessen. And Mark wrote the Techno Optimist Manifesto recently. And it's a really fascinating opinion piece really on the future of technology and why people should be really excited about all the technology and things that are happening. There's people seem to fall into two camps. They're either like terrified of it and thinking it's going to take over the world and destroy us all like the Terminator, or they're really excited about it and they see the possibilities and the opportunities that it presents. And I certainly fall in the techno-optimist end of things. I think that technology will continue to improve our lives and make the lives of those around us better too.
I agree. And that also reminds me a little bit of the topic that you put out recently about multi-generational dynamics. And I think while we do want to continue to innovate, and I'm very excited about where technology is going to take us, I think there's value too in looking back on the good old days, not as being better, but taking the wisdom of people that have come before us, because it's so interesting when you think, this reminds me of Tony Robbins talks about the 4 seasons in history, and he talks about how, when during winter, during hard times, you forge people that are tougher, that have just been through things, and then comes a spring where things are, kind of in renaissance, and then a summer where you're enjoying, and so it just kind of goes on and on like that. But history really does just repeat itself. I mean, it rhymes. And so when we can learn lessons from the people that came before us and look back with honor on what they have to offer from a wise perspective, but not think that that means everything was better 100 years ago, and kind of marry the two, like you said, take fresh ideas, innovation, hope for the future, and optimism, and combine that with wisdom and lessons from the past. I think that's where magic really happens for humanity. And so it's really exciting to me to think about where we're headed as a species. And I wish that more people felt that way, because sometimes you get bogged down in the news and you hear all the things that are going wrong and you forget to focus on the things that are going right. Yeah,
the best thing to do is turn off the news, because it just doesn't leave you typically feeling better than when you started.
Absolutely.
But I just think it's just much easier to go through life waking up optimistically and thinking like today and tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. Why would we not think that way? And I know that people struggle with mental health and different things that can get us down for periods of time. But I think part of the enjoyment of life is looking forward to tomorrow,
Right.
while also enjoying the present and being involved with those around you. But if tomorrow in your mind is always going to be better than today, I think it's just it makes life so much better and more fun.
Absolutely. Well, talking about waking up with optimism, one of the things on my list to talk to you about was morning routine. It's something that has always been important to us, and I think it's first of all, I'd be curious to hear your take on why a morning routine is so important, but then also kind of what you view as the most important aspects of your morning routine at this point.
Yeah, so I did not have a morning routine really at all for most of my life. I was the kid that had to be drug out of bed in the morning, similar to our little girl.
I know one of those, yeah.
And then really what kind of just changed my life as a whole when we were both teachers was reading The 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss's first book. And it just opened a world of possibility. It showed me what was out there in the world and what it meant to take risks. And in order to be able to leave teaching and explore entrepreneurship and business and real estate and all those things that we're into now, it was a big risk. But what that taught me, what that book taught me, was the bigger risk was being in a career for 30 years that I didn't enjoy or that wasn't fulfilling for me. And I think most people don't look at the world that way. But as you begin to kind of reframe your mindset and think about taking calculated risk and diving into entrepreneurship or whatever it is that you're passionate about, it kind of reprograms the way that you think about your day. And for me, what that did was I wanted to get as much out of every single day as possible. And if we wake up kind of slowly in the morning, we're scrolling through our phones and we just kind of fall into the day, you've already lost half the day at that point, because it takes another couple hours to probably get into that focused mindset for work or whatever it is that you're doing that day. And so for me, it's critical that I need to start my day very early. We have a busy work day every single day. We have a family that we want to spend time with. We like to go on date nights on occasion and spend time with friends. And there's just so much in life that we want to enjoy and do. And so for me, that means waking up at 4:15 in the morning. I like to get out of bed and go straight to the gym. I enjoy my CrossFit workout at 4:45 with my early morning crew each morning. So I spend about an hour doing that. On the way to and from the gym, which is only about a 15-minute ride for me, I'm listening to a podcast. Lately, I've been very deep in the Founders podcast, loving some of the stuff that's coming out of there. When I get home, I jump in the shower and get ready as much as I can for the day, and then head downstairs. And the first thing I do is fill out my gratitude journal. And I have a one that I really like because there's prompts in it. It's beyond just writing down, something you're grateful for. It's, it's about setting intention for the day. There's positive affirmations in it. There's prompting questions about things that you might be grateful for, or kind of forces you to think a little bit differently about your day. So that's really helpful for me. That's about a 5 or 10 minute task, depending on the day. From there, I jump right into reading. I like to read for about 30 minutes every morning. Usually a business book, but not always. And then after that, I make my fancy protein smoothie that you share with me.
Which I get the leftovers of. It
Yeah.
sounds really good.
And take a stack of supplements that is probably bigger than my hand, and I think most health experts would say is probably too much, and trying to fine-tune things a little bit too much. But I like experimenting and kind of treating myself as a guinea pig. And then from there, we spend some time with our kids, drop them at school, and head into work for the day. And I think if I didn't have that 4 or 5 hours in the morning to do all of those things to get me in the right health, the right mindset, the right focus, I know that the next 8 hours of the workday would be not nearly as productive, and I couldn't be the person that I need to be when I show up to work without that routine. The downside of that routine is I have to go to bed early. I cannot be up at 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night like a lot of people are, because I simply can't live on getting that little sleep for so long. And so usually by 9 o'clock I'm out. During the week I stay up a little later on the weekends, but I really enjoy that routine. I feel like I'm making progress every day in my health and my mindset and business. And if I'm just doing a little bit better each day, then it's a day that I feel like I've won.
Yeah. I think it's so important. I agree. And you were the one that turned me onto it, but it's been a huge quality of life improvement for me too. And I think part of it is when you wake up and you set the time that you wake up and you decide what you do first thing and you consciously choose things that you know are going to put you in a positive state, you're in action and you're being proactive and kind of getting momentum going into your day and forward progress. You're not jumping into reactivity immediately. And I think that's the problem, is when you don't take that time to kind of set what sort of mental state you want to walk into your day with. For me, part of it is always looking at the calendar so I can anticipate what's coming up that day. But just getting into a sense of agency and that you have control over how your day is going to go, I think is so helpful. When the first thing you do is open an email in the morning, then you're constantly just responding to what's coming at you. And that's not a good mental state to get into your day. And so I'm not quite as hardcore as you, but I'll run through my current morning routine too, just for those of you who maybe are not quite as hardcore as Dustin. So I tend to wake up around more like 5:45 or so. And I'm different than you in that I kind of like to ease into my morning routine. And so what I usually do is turn on the light over my bed, sit up, and jump right into more of like a journaling state of mind. And so you got me for Christmas last year, which I've loved. I think it's called the One Line Journal. And it's just one line about what you did that day. But the way that the pages are set up is that calendar day you'll get to look back on for 5 years in a row. And so what I'm really excited about is I'm coming to the very end of my first year. So next year, every day when I write in it, I'll get to look at what I was doing that exact same day last year. And I love it because it's just a little like, hey, it was a great busy day at work. And then we had a date night at La Fable. Shout out to La Fable. Great day. But it's just cool that I'm going to be able to look back. So I like to do one thing where I'm reflecting back on the day before, and then I do a little bit of journaling about just where my head's at today, what I'm thinking about, and my gratitude for the day ahead. And I think personally that gratitude is one of the most important things that you can do. I think it's Tony Robbins that says, and it's super cheesy, but it's so true, when you trade your expectations for appreciation, everything changes. And it's just, we are so blessed, and most people that I know are so blessed. And as humans, we tend to focus on the worst things in our lives. And so just reframing that mindset for me is amazing. But from there, then I roll out of bed closer to like 6 o'clock-ish. And I've found, this is more for the ladies out there, but I work out at home. We have 2 young kids. We can't both be gone in the morning. And I, being more introverted, kind of like just being by myself in the mornings, at least before my coffee. But I love the Tone It Up app. There's great workouts on there. You can get a really good workout anywhere from 10 to 45 minutes, depending on how much time you have. HIIT, strength training. I just have a couple sets of dumbbells and use that. And I think it's like $12.99 a month. But I don't even think I've told you this, except that you probably embarrassingly saw me do it yesterday. But one of my Instagram ads recently was something called Dance Bit. And it was like learning how to be a really good dancer at home. But it's like a workout app essentially. But that's been really fun. So that's the kind of workouts I've been doing. And it's like hip hop dance moves. And you just can't help but be in a good mood when you've spent 15 minutes just dancing like a crazy person in your PJs first thing in the morning. So for me, I like to do that, then get showered, start getting the kids ready, which is always a little bit unpredictable when they wake up and all that. And then same as you, like listen to a podcast while I'm getting ready, something that's either inspiring or is helping me to learn something in a different area than I usually exercise my mind in, and then get off to the day. But it's just great to start your day every day knowing that you have control of your state and kind of get into that momentum in the direction that you want your day to go.
And it's hard at first. I think people try it for a day or two and they're like, this is too hard. I can't operate on this little sleep or just can't get into this routine, or exercise isn't for me. And, there's a million books out there that talk about how to create the habit. I think Atomic Habits is one of the biggest books this year that goes deep into this too. But if you just commit to doing this for a week, and then 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks, it becomes second nature. And it's not as hard every day if you just have that habit and that routine in place and that discipline to keep doing it every single day. Right. And those first few days are definitely hard. They're a big adjustment. But I promise you will feel better if you just commit to that routine. And to me, I think the most important aspect of all of it is to get your body moving.
I agree.
You don't have to go to CrossFit and do a crazy workout like I do, but go for a walk, do a workout at your home like you talked about with Tone It Up or whatever else. It can be simple, easy, fun, but you have to get your body in motion, I think. And one of the things that Andrew Huberman always talks about is also getting some form of natural light just as quickly as possible. And it's hard in the wintertime here because it's not bright out, or the sun doesn't seem like it comes out until noon.
And then goes down at 3.
Yeah, and then it's gray and dreary and not fun. But as soon as you can get exposure to natural sunlight, I think that's huge. And we have one of those sunlight lamps too that I use every morning when I'm reading, that I think is like a kind of a substitute for that when we can't get the natural light.
Yeah, I forgot that as part of my morning routine. Mine's weird. If someone watched me, they would be like, wow, she's a crazy person.
Yeah.
I am. But the other thing that I do literally is we're on the second floor of bedroom, literally just stick my head out the window and look out at the trees and just kind of like try to get some of that morning light, because it wakes you up. Now that it's cold out too, it kind of like, whew, wakes you up a little bit.
My dream is to have a personal cryo chamber that I can get into for that.
It's a little more fancy than
cold,
sticking your head out the window.
Because the cold showers just don't do it for me. I want the shower to be relaxing, and I try to turn it on cold for a minute or two to get the benefits. But I love the cryo chambers because you can get in, you're not wet at the time, and you get cold, you can get out, and that's a goal.
Yeah. I'm just picturing where you're going to put it in our house.
I'll just put it in your closet because it's big enough to accommodate probably with all
I
those.
need all. Yeah. I've got some plans for that space.
Let's just shift gears a little bit and talk about some movies and shows that we watched this year and that I included in the Vibe, because it was a really good year for that. I think coming off of COVID and with Hollywood strikes and everything going on, it seems like there was kind of a lapse in quality content for a little while. But I think this year was a really strong year for new stuff. What was your favorites of the year?
It's funny. That's one of the things I wrote down. I think in the ones that I was looking back at, my favorite movie might have been, of new movies, A Haunting in Venice. That was a really good movie, and I love Agatha Christie books and like Poirot novels in particular, and so I think it was kind of like right in my niche, but it was just scary enough that I think it was also something that you really enjoyed. So that was one that I really liked. And then this didn't come out this year, but it's just my number one favorite movie is About Time, and you put that in the Vibe, I think, once or twice. And I love that movie. I can't help but watch it and then feel happier and more optimistic afterwards. So those are probably my top two movies.
I agree. I love About Time. I'm kind of a sappy rom-com, romedy, I guess. I don't know what the phrase is for it now, but I enjoy those kind of movies too.
Either that or horror and more.
And then I enjoy like the slasher horror movies too.
Yeah.
I remember watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably way too young, but those kind of movies are a lot of fun too.
What's the Red Rum movie? The Shining?
The Shining,
yep,
yeah.
That
was a great one. Yeah.
You were, what, 9?
Maybe not. Yeah. I remember trying to go upstairs at our house at home, and my dad yelling "Red Rum" as an 8-year-old tried to tumble up the dark stairs, and so that was a lot of fun. But I had a good childhood.
Yeah.
But I got into a bunch of different shows this year too. My favorite, and I can't remember if it was this year or maybe late last year too, but was the We Crash show.
I was just looking at that
on Apple. I thought that was kind of an under the radar, like incredible show. And for those of you who haven't seen it or haven't heard about it, it tells the story of WeWork, kind of the rise and ultimately, as we've seen this year, the fall of WeWork as a concept. But Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway, are the actors in it, and they just did an incredible job with that. And the story is just so compelling. For me, it's kind of like a motivating story for entrepreneurship and business, just to kind of see people that dream really big and do some really crazy and dumb things, but it's just kind of inspiring to see what can happen with big dreams and surrounding yourself with the right people. And so I really enjoyed that series.
Had a great soundtrack too.
It did, yes.
I still listen to that.
Often playing in the office, that soundtrack.
Absolutely. Another one that I was seeing on here, recent one that we both really enjoyed, was The Killers of the Flower Moon. That was a great movie, and we kind of hesitated to commit to it at first because it's so long. I think, 3.5 hours? Yeah, so long, but it's worth it. And the story in that, the fact that it's based on a true story, is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And with, again, like Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, you really can't go wrong with a cast like that.
Yeah.
So that was a great one. And then there were some that weren't like the most highbrow, life-changing, but I just really enjoyed watching. And I think my favorite in that category was that show Jury Duty. Do you remember that? It was I've totally forgotten about it. But essentially the concept is that it's a fake jury, and so there's this one guy who they just happen to pick like the nicest guy in the entire world. He's like the best guy. Ronald, something. Was that his
I
name?
don't remember his name.
But anyway, he thinks that he's being selected for jury duty in LA. Just happens to be on there with James Marsden, which is hilarious that didn't tip him off that something was up. And it was just a little reality series about how he reacted to all of this insanity going on around the trial. It was so funny.
It was fun and relaxing. It was a nice thing to watch before going to bed.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that too. So it's been a fun year. 2023 is definitely one of the most memorable years for me. In real estate, it was chaotic. The market was nowhere near what it was in 2021. For our business, I'm looking forward to 2024. I think we've got some exciting things on the horizon there. But what are the biggest things that you're looking for as we head into this new year? What are you excited about?
Yeah, some of it's kind of the same as the best parts of 2023, which to me has been a lot of learning and dipping my toes and pushing myself outside of my comfort zone a little bit, forcing myself to do things like public speaking at conferences and things that just are not natural to me and kind of force me to get out there and be a little bit courageous. So I'm excited to tackle more things like that. I'm really excited about the team that we have at the Parker Group and just continuing to grow with them. I think we have a really clear vision for 2024, and I think it's going to be a great year professionally because of that. There's honestly nothing more motivating than working alongside people that are bright and good people and that have a ton of capacity, and just seeing the things that you can create together is really creatively fulfilling. So I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about trips that we're going on. We have some fun trips coming up, most notably Switzerland this summer.
Nice.
So very excited about that. Going to try to link up with my family there and play like we're the children in the Sound of Music, which I realized didn't happen in Switzerland, but just running through the Swiss Alps and the mountains there will be, I don't know, just kind of a fun family experience. I'm really excited about that. And I'm also excited for writing. I think I really want to get back to writing. It's something that really fills me up, and try to actually get my novel published, speaking of pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. So I think those are the big ones for me. What about you?
Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Rachel has written an incredible novel that she never talks about, but I have been pushing her to go ahead and move forward with trying to get it published, and so I too look forward to that in 2024, and I'm going to make sure that happens. But yeah, there's just so much to look forward to. It's, I've worked in a lot of different jobs in my life. I started working when I was like 13 years old. My brother had a lawn care company that I eventually took over. Worked at Sears selling things on commission, worked at UPS, all kinds of different things. And I learned so much from each of those jobs, teaching, politics. And I think what's unique about what we do now, in large part because of the people that we do it with, is I look forward to coming to work every day. And I think whenever you start a new job, you always kind of have that honeymoon phase for the first month, 2, 3, 4 months, however long it lasts, where it's like, oh, this is fun, this is different, this is new, I'm learning, it's exciting, I like these people. But then it seems like over time that kind of fades a little bit and wears off. And that I'm more excited than ever now to show up to work every day and work with the people that are around us and do all the cool, exciting things with technology and marketing and business that we're working on right now. So that's something I continue to look forward to in 2024. I'm also looking forward to our Europe vacation. Each year we try to take the kids somewhere new and different and outside of all of our comfort zones.
Right.
And so that's always a fun trip. And then we'll have lots of fun date nights in 2024 as well. So I've got some cool, fun surprise ideas. And we usually like to surprise each other a few times a year with different date nights and overnight little trips and things. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Speaking of that, I'm excited for our Savage race. No, Spartan race this year.
Spartan, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
What's the distance on that one?
It's a 21K, which is not quite a half marathon, and 30 obstacles.
30 obstacles.
And I have not been exercising to a level. I think my hip hop dance workouts are going to get me there. So
Yeah.
I need to up my game a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. I played football in high school and have been doing CrossFit for a few years and have been very fortunate that I've never really injured myself in all of those things.
Until
the most serious adult kickball game that we played this year. We were in a silly kickball league, and
It's not silly, according to a couple of our
it got pretty intense. But running to first base, slipped in the wet grass as I was running through the base and landed right on my left wrist. And it has not been the same ever since. And that was back in October. So I'm excited to get that healed up and better so that I can participate fully in this Spartan race.
Welcome to your mid-30s.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there were several injuries during that game. I think
wish
Julie and Brian went down too.
I wish it was a cool boxing story or a fight or something. But no, I slipped at a child game.
It was an intense adult competition.
Yeah. Well, we did our first one. This is our first.
This is fun.
Podcast, and hopefully all of you got some value or entertainment or something out of this. I'm not sure, but it was fun for us.
Yeah.
We look forward to continuing these. Our goal and plan is to release one every couple of weeks. We'll spend some time talking about the different things that I write about in the Vibe and just things that are going on generally. But if you have feedback for us, or there's things you want us to talk about or mention or do, let us know. But we're excited to kind of travel along this journey in 2024 and see where it takes us.
Yeah. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.